Hey everybody, this is Nicole Pascal with Topaz Labs. Thank you so much for your interest in Topaz Labs Lens Effects. It is a brand new plugin that we're super excited about, and I'm happy to present this kind of quick start guide for you today. Topaz Lens Effects is a plugin that simulates very realistic lens, filter, and specialty camera effects. You can easily emphasize different focal points or focal planes, which can minimize distracting elements within your image. You also have the flexibility to add in-camera effects such as depth of field and filters after the shot, which is really cool. It gives you kind of a complete creative control over your image after you've already taken the image. With Lens Effects, you really have unlimited possibilities. This is an effect-packed program that allows you so many different choices. You can create bokeh, vignettes, image motion, depth of field, lens baby type effects, some toy camera effects like Holga and Diana, tilt shift distortions, total wide range of many popular effects that are out there. The thing that I really enjoy about this plugin is that it gives me complete creative control. Let's get started. What I want to do with this image, I've already created it just so I could show you a before and after. Here's what we're going to do in just a couple minutes with Lens Effects. So from this image where you're kind of distracted, the tone is not that great within this image, you're distracted by some of these elements where you really want your eye to go directly to the subject. And now here, just a couple minutes, we were able to create a realistic depth of field where she was in focus and the rest of the image was out of focus, or the rest of the field was out of focus. The tones have been enhanced. A lovely vignette, selective vignette, has been applied to this image, and that kind of takes the distraction away from all the other elements. So let's see how we can do this pretty quickly. I'll go ahead and introduce you to Lens Effects. I'm going to take this layer directly into Lens Effects by going to Filter, Topaz Labs, Topaz Lens Effects. Okay, you'll notice when you open up Lens Effects that it's a little bit different of an interface than our usual effect-based plugins at this time. What you'll see over here on the preset panel, which usually only includes our presets, we now have an extra box called Effects, and that's above our presets box, and you can scroll through them and see all the different effects that are included within this program at this time. And once you select on an effect, so we are in the single tone filter effect, which is a color filter effect, we can then scroll through the presets that are provided for that particular effect. So it's a very similar workflow to our other plugins. However, we do have a little bit extra here for you. Notice that we still have our preset view up here, so you can just scroll over them and you'll see that preset preview change. You still have the ability to save, delete, import, and export your presets. You have your original and preview mode here, which you can toggle back and forth still with your space bar, as well as your left mouse button and these tabs up at the top. One thing that is new with an effect-based interface here is our ability to look at the image in a split view. You can see your before image and your preview image together. This is going to be really effective when we are looking at our depth map creations. Okay, I'm going to go back to our single view here. Over here on the right, we still have our preview navigator where you can zoom in and zoom out to see exactly what area of the image you want to look at. You can fit the image to your preview window, and you can also look at it one-to-one, which will take it to 100%. It's really great for sharpening effects or anything that you really need to see exactly what it's doing to your image, not just the overall tone of your image. Okay, I'm going to go back to fit. Now we still have our undo redo buttons, which are pretty self-explanatory. Our snap button, which is going to snap pictures of different effects whenever you press this button. Then you can scroll through all of your snapshots and see which setting you like the best. It's a really fun feature that is included in most of our programs, and I really enjoy it personally. Once you've chosen your effect, over here on the right, you'll have different tabs pop up, and those are going to be your adjustment parameters. So you'll notice as you go through, you'll have lots of different adjustment choices, and that's going to be specific to that effect that you choose on your left. So let's go back to our single tone just to show you. So if you open up these adjustments, you can only open them one at a time at this point. That's just to save some space. Now, within anything that's involving your color tone, you can usually come in and actually adjust that color tone adjustment. If you do not like any of the presets, or if you just want to tweak the presets, presets are a great starting point, but usually for an individual image, there's something that you can always do to kind of make it a little bit better. So that's why we provide these adjustments here for you. To close it, you just click on your top tab, and then you can open the next tab. Down here we still have our Reset All button, but something that's new within our interface is this Apply button. Very cool for this particular plugin, as there are lots of effects that are offered within this plugin. And say I want to not only have a bokeh effect, but I also want to have this color tone effect, and I also want to have a vignette effect. Well, I can apply each and every one of those while still in this one interface. I don't have to go out of this interface, process the image, and then come back into it like you have to do with some of our previous programs. So this Apply button is very cool. But note that once you press this Apply button, you cannot go back. Even if you do an undo or a Control Z or a Command Z, nothing's going to take away that application of that effect. And don't press it more than twice. I learned that the hard way. It might take a second to process, and if you end up pressing it 2 or 3 times, it will apply that effect 2 or 3 times. So just apply it once, and just know that your image is now applied that way. And if you want to go back to your very original image, you're going to actually cancel out of the program and come back in with that particular layer again. Okay, so let's show you how to create what I showed you the before and after of. So again, here's our before image. And I want to create first a realistic bokeh effect, blurring effect on both my foreground and my background. We have 3 different bokeh effects. One is the center focus, where you can choose your effect center. You'll see this effect center button in many of our adjustment panels. If you want to choose the effect center and be a little bit more precise about what's going on within your image, just choose that. Come over here. You'll see that your pointer has now turned into crosshairs, and you just put that crosshairs exactly where you want the center to be, and that's where it will move to. Now this center focus bokeh is one of our more simple bokeh adjustments. It's really great for images that you don't want to sit there and make a depth map with. It's a very simple adjustment, and you can adjust your blur amount, your focus width, your height, and your transition. Your transition is going to be the transition area between your in focus area and your blur. Now you can also play with lens characteristics, which is really a lot of fun actually. You get to choose whether or not or what shape your aperture is, how many blades are in there, or if it's a perfect circle. You can then mess with your blade curvature. These are all going to be pretty subtle adjustments unless you have a really strong chromatic aberration within your highlights. Then you'll definitely see this aperture shape change as you change to a 5-blade versus an 8-blade. Your highlights will become not 5-sided highlights but 8-sided highlights. Now, one thing I really enjoy within this lens characteristics box is this creamy value. As you push your creamy value up, you'll notice over here, just keep an eye right here as I take it back down. It changes the smoothness and almost the transition a little bit more than just the transition does. Just really smooths it out and makes it quite a beautiful natural blur. It's very nice and something that I find that I'm using on most of my bokeh adjustments. Now down here you have bokeh SLR lens, which you create your depth map, which we'll go over here in just one moment. And then you can do one of two things. You can come over here, and we've provided all of these lens presets, which will be different settings for your focal plane adjustments, your different blurs for the foreground and background, and these will simulate this type of lens. It's very nice, and then you can come over here and play around with it even more if you don't like that, but it's actually a simulation of these particular lenses, some of these lenses that a lot of us can't afford, so it's really nice. My favorite bokeh is the bokeh selective. This gives you a lot of control within your image. For this particular process, I'm going to shut my preset panel. The way that you do that is you can click on this little white triangle and it'll just shut it right on up. Same thing can happen over here, but since we're working in our adjustment panel, I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to open my Edit Depth Map, and what you'll see is a mask preview, but it's actually a map preview, and then your original on the left. I'm going to fit my image within here, and let's see here. Let's start out with our depth map now. Up at the top you'll see some just generalized instructions that'll just help you walk through it. It is a bit of, if you forget, what the depth value means or what the brush size means or etc., you can come up here and just refresh your memory. It's a really nice little instruction panel. You have your undo redo button, which will undo or redo your map adjustments, not your actual overall image adjustments, and you can reset your mask and map to exactly what you want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and reset it. We'll just start fresh. What you see here is the computer generated or the program generated depth map, which many times will be just beautiful, and you can tweak it just a bit and it will be perfect. Like this one. This one really has a nice depth map going on. While this image is still up here, I'll tell you a little bit about this depth value, which is the near to far. The 0 value, right here, we've provided these little selection buttons, 5 different shades for you, as we also have this slider for the more complex depth map that you might be actually creating in the future. So the 0 value is black, and that is going to be the nearest to the camera. The 255 value is white, and that's going to be the furthest away from the camera. So if we look at our original image over here, this is a pretty accurate depth map as this particular image shows. There are some things such as this black wire over here that should be more of this white color, certain things going on that you'd have to tweak a little bit, but it's just a general program generated map that isn't necessarily going to be perfect for you. So I'm going to actually just start fresh and press reset. And that'll give me, since I'm at my depth value of 0, it's going to give me an all black mask here. Below the depth value you have your brush size, which is 5 to 255. We've also provided these convenient buttons here, but you also have the slider if you want to be a little bit more precise. Note that your smaller brush sizes are going to be for precision, and your larger brush sizes are there for convenience to erase large sections of your image. But the smaller brush sizes are going to be the ones you want to use when creating specific depth maps. Your brush softness is going to be the smoothness between the different values that you put. It's kind of also self-explanatory. Just know that you need to change this before, or set this value before you actually start your depth map, because once you've brushed that on, you can't come back and change the brush softness to make a smoother depth map. It has to be done before so. So I'm going to put that at 0.75. I'm going to go to 0, and I'm just going to come over here to my original and scroll over the bottom here, which is going to be black. I'm going to go to 64. I'm going to use these buttons just since this is a quick start guide. Now I'm going to do 64 just right across this next little level, this plane here. I'm not sure why that did that. Okay, now I'm going to go to 128, and that's actually what I'm going to be painting my subject in. Or most of her, not the bottom of her dress there that's hanging over the edge. I'm also going to be putting it right on that edge. So there's that. It's a nice transition going on here, as you can see. Now I'm going to go to 192. Going to put it right back here and on this last step. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to hit 255, and I'm just going to brush across right there, and let's see what happens. Yeah, did a pretty great job, actually. So it's as simple as that. I'm going to come over here and do a little bit more of a 255 value there. Okay, just for convenience or time's sake, we're going to stop there, but as you can see, it can be a pretty simple process with the right image. It can also be a little bit more of an in-depth process, but it's really exact. Once you have a great depth map, you have a lot of control over exactly where you want your focal point to be. So let's move down to our next tab here, which is the focal plane adjustments, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Before I do that, I'm going to go into my main regular view, not my split view. I'm going to go to fit the image here in our screen. That's good, so you guys have a great view there. And now I'm going to go to my focal plane adjustments. Note that my focal plane adjustments default position is at 0. My foreground blur and my background blur at 0.1, and my depth of field is at 33. So because my focal plane is at 0, the most in focus point here is the area that is actually set at the 0 value, that black area. As I move this up, my focal plane will change, and it'll go up the image all the way to the black. So let me take my blur amounts and move them up so you can see exactly how that focal plane is moving. So you can move that up, and it'll just start creeping up the image. If you remember, 128 is where we set her focus at, so let's 127.5. So there you go. Now the 127.5 or 128 value is now in focus. Now the depth of field is great because what it does is it allows you to get a deeper depth of field or a more shallow depth of field, and that's obviously not going to work for us in this image, but it really gives you the control over how much of that plane or how large of a plane you want to keep in focus. So now I'm going to go to my foreground blur amounts and my background blur amounts and take that back down to a normal level, because this is not giving me the effect that I personally want. So I'm going to take that down to about, let's see here, 0.25-ish, maybe even lower. Okay, and my background blur to maybe about 0.4. Okay, so here's before and here's after. It's a pretty amazing difference already, but now I'm going to open up my lens characteristics and play with that creamy slider that I was telling you about. I'm going to just take that all the way up almost, and that's going to give me a much more natural transition. I'm also going to come back to my focal plane and increase my depth of field to again give me a little bit more of a transition there. And now I'm going to go into my focus area adjustments. All of these adjustments will go directly to my focus area, so I can sharpen if I need to. Remember to go to 1-to-1 if you are working on sharpening, as you will not see the sharpening effects if you're not near 1-to-1 or more. And what you'll find will happen is you'll over sharpen not knowing that it's actually being over sharpened. So here's before. And here's after. The brightness, again, it's only going to affect your focus area, your contrast, whatever you want it to be, your saturation. So here's before and after. Let me go to my fit. Okay. Now I'm going to bring back in my preset panel. There we go. Now we have our blur area adjustments. Your blur area adjustments will affect only your blurred area, kind of as it sounds. So I'm going to take my brightness down, my contrast a little down, and my saturation up. Now my vignette and grain are really great if you just want to stay within one effect and just apply everything to that effect. In this vignette, you don't have the option of really choosing the center, but it's an excellent tool if your vignette, if you want your vignette just kind of uniform around the edges. It's a really beautiful vignette, but I'm going to apply this by pressing apply and move on to the next effect. I want to warm up my image just a little bit, so I'm going to come down here to the filter single tone, which we were at earlier, and I'm going to go to my warm tone 1. So here's before and here's where we are right now. I think we've done a massive improvement already, so now I'm going to apply that warm tone. And now I'm going to go to one of my other favorite effects. It's going to be the Add Vignette Selective. This is going to be the vignette that gives you the most choices. You also have your Add Vignette, which is a little bit more of a simple vignette if you don't want to sit there and bother with all the choices, because sometimes you don't want to do that. You don't want to have all these different adjustments to make. So, but if you do want to sit there and really have an exact vignette, you can come over here, press Effect Center, choose the center of where you want your vignette to be. I want mine right there. I want my width to be pretty wide. I want my height to be kind of low because this is kind of a low image. So something along these lines. Your tonal adjustments, you can actually change your tone to darker or lighter. I'm going to keep mine just right about 0. You can change your transition to make it a stronger transition or kind of a smoother transition. I'm going to leave mine pretty mid-range. You can increase your contrast, the brightness, however bright you want to make vignette, or the opacity of it. So it's really up to you what you want to do. What's kind of cool with this one is you can actually select the color of vignette that you want. So if you want a hot pink vignette, go for it. If you want a hot yellow one, it's awesome because you can just take this little thing right here and go around and choose the colors that you're wanting to use on your image and the one that'll look best for you. So I'm going to press cancel because I'm just going to keep this one, and I'm going to press OK. So now with just a few little effects, I've gone from here to here in a matter of minutes. It's a very cool plugin, very strong and powerful plugin, and it allows you, again, a lot of creative control. That's what this is all about. So now I'm going to go to this tilt river, or this river image that I want to show you the tilt shift effect in. The original image, let's see here, is right here. You can do something like this, which is the tilt shift effect with kind of an old school haze, film haze on it, along with a graduated neutral density filter, which will darken up your sky here, and the saturation was increased a lot. Or you can have a more natural image here. So let's just take it in and I'll show you how to do that real quick. I'm going to take this one that has not been affected yet, and we'll go back into the Topaz Lens Effects, and I'm going to go directly to the tilt shift camera effect. Now you have your presets over here. It's a good starting point, and if it works for your image, awesome. Most images you're going to have to tell it exactly where you want the in focus portion. So I'm going to start out with a horizontal band, lower half, but it's still not in the right area. I want it to be directly on these individuals. So I'm going to go to my tilt shift adjustments, click effect position, and I'm going to put it kind of right there. And so that will move my focus plane up, and that will be exactly where I want it to stay. It will stay there as I do the rest of my adjustments. I'm going to take my transition down so you can see exactly what's going on here. As I move my width adjustment up, you'll see that it becomes a wider band across the image, and as I move it down, you'll see that it closes in on these people, and everything becomes blurred. So I'm going to take that transition back to a normal smooth transition. I think I'm going to increase my width just a tiny bit. I'm going to leave my blur amount right about where it is. That's great for me. And then the angle stays as it is, horizontal. Then you have your image adjustments. Now we provided these because sometimes you don't want to go from effect to effect to effect, and this is really something that's quite convenient for you. Also, the tilt shift camera effect is something that is used for those miniature scenes that are all over the place right now, being created either with a 4x5 camera or a tilt shift lens, or in programs like this that you can create them manually. So with that, the saturation is usually increased quite a bit, so we wanted to give that availability to you, that kind of convenience. So let's just play around with that for a moment. For now, I'm just going to apply. And now I'm going to come to my graduated neutral density filter, which is a really nice filter for skies and areas where you want less light to be. So if you look up here on the preset preview, as I scroll over here, you'll see that it just darkens up different areas of the image. We want to do the top half. You can either do it 1 stop, 2 stops, or you can come over here and manipulate all of the adjustments yourself. I am going to just do top half 2 stops and apply. And now I can take it down to, I believe what I did to create that kind of old hazy effect was go into my single tone, and you can have fun with either the film haze, which gives that red cyan-y type of haze, the old school haze 1, which is more yellowish, old school haze 2, which comes out yellow bluish, and it's really up to you what you want to do with this. So let's just say OK, and now we're back into Photoshop in just a minute or two, and now, oops, let's go to our original here. We've gone from this to this very, very simply, very quickly. Everything was right where you needed it, and it was very effective, very realistic camera and lens simulation. And that is exactly what Lens Effects is. It's there for you to have control creatively after the shot, because you may not have been able to capture what you visualized with your equipment, with your filters, with your lenses, it might not have been possible, so we give that possibility to you with Lens Effects. Really hope you enjoy it. We have had a lot of fun here developing it and creating it and playing around with it with our images, and we can't wait to hear some feedback from you, and enjoy. Thanks for watching the quick start guide, and if you have any questions, just let us know. FYI, this will be available May 5th, so if you're watching this before then, please know it is not yet available. We will be releasing it on May 5th. All right, thanks again, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.